Howdy folks, it's Adriel the Hunting Gear Guy, and this is the Remington 700 ADL. This is the most inexpensive Remington 700 that you can get, and it's kind of interesting. This one's a blind magazine, which means there is no magazine. It's actually integral inside the rifle there. So that means you have to feed rounds in through the top, and when it's time to pull them out, you have to rack them all out onto the floor. So again, that's a cost-cutting measure that they've done to this rifle to try to make it more competitive. They had discontinued the ADL for a while, but they're bringing it back to, I assume, start activating more of their Remington 700 production and compete with some of the other inexpensive budget bolt-action rifles out there. Now, Remington does still have another budget bolt-action rifle, the 783, in market. So it's a little bit weird that they would put this one in the market at the same time, because they kind of compete against each other. The price range is the same, and the features are a little bit different, but it's kind of odd to put them both in the market at the same time. I think this is just a temporary thing, but that's just me guessing at this thing. So before we get a little bit closer, let's just make sure that it's empty, and you can see me racking the bolts there before it's empty and my magazine's empty. So why don't we take a closer look at this rifle. All right, we're in close with our 700 ADL. It's got a little bit of this is a bit stiffer than some of the other ones out there, but I still think it's good enough. This is the recoil pad that we've got on here. We've got a steel sling stud. That's different than what Remington's been doing on some of their other rifles, so I really appreciate having a steel sling stud rather than plastic molded in one. We've got these contoured kind of grip area here with kind of a pattern done into it, just to give yourself a little bit more grip. On the right hand side of the rifle, we've got our safety. Our safety is on fire right now, and there's on safe. So very easy to do. A little bit clicky to it, a little bit hard to make it quiet, but you can do it. You just need to ride it very quietly forward there, and it'll work just fine. Bolt, very standard usability there. We are empty here, so I just want to show you this fantastic trigger on here. Oh, I love this thing. I really love what Remington's done with these new triggers. And if you can just watch there, did you see it move? It's so small. It's such a small movement on there, and it's such a light trigger. I really love it. Oh man, so good. You can tell it's been fired because that pin has been removed from the back here, and once it's on, then you can kind of see that steel there. So kind of a quick and dirty way of showing whether the striker is ready to rock and roll. And there's not really a lot else to this thing. It's got a little bit of a knurled bolt here, and it's got kind of an oval shape to it, so that's kind of interesting. It's because it is a two-lug design, it does lift quite high up here, so you may need to get the correct scope and rings so that you're not grabbing your thumb between the two as you're pulling back. Inside here, that's where you can see our blind magazine, and one of the problems with this particular blind magazine is very easy to dip down at the front. So oh, did I lock it? There we go. Get it back going in there. So it is kind of a guessing game when you're putting rounds in there. You do have to look and make sure that they're lined up front to back, and you're not like jamming them in too far forward or too far back. Again, that's just the Remington 700 ADL. The Remington 700s, the other ones that have a detachable magazine, you don't have to worry about that as much. The ADL does come with these bases pre-installed, so they're ready to rock and roll. That was kind of nice because then you don't have to go out and buy them, and you're going to need them anyways, right? To remove the bolt, I really like this. You pull the bolt, push it all the way to the back here. There's a little gas pedal right here. You're just going to push that, and then out comes the bolt. Now the bolt is a one-piece affair, non-floating, single piece front head. So again, this is one of the pieces where you may need to do, or may want to do, some gunsmithing to tighten the tolerances on those two lugs to make sure that they're both fully engaged. Now, especially since this one's a 223, there's a lot of meat going on in here. So this is a very strong design, and the Remington 700 is known for having a very strong bolt head design. Kind of moving up towards the front here, we've got just a plain fore-end. We've got a non-free floated barrel, so there's actually a pressure point up at the front here. Not something I like to see, but it's present in this one, so whatever. All right, to disassemble the Remington 700, we've got an action screw up here, we've got up one back here, and we've got a little guy over here. Now these two over here are 5/32. This guy here is a 3/32. The bigger guys are carrying most of the weight. Let's go ahead and pull that front guy off there. Now this front one has this metal kind of washer molded into the stock, which is really nice. The rear one doesn't. I don't know if you guys can see that, but that trigger guard is actually cracked because I was torquing it down and it's just acting on plastic and it snapped. So not super fantastic. Get out of there. Oh, you know what? It's pulling up because of the pressure on that 3/32 screw at the front there. I don't really like this this bedding system that they've got on here. Just having 3 screws, the plastic on the back, it's just not that great. They're not pillar bedded, which I mean they don't need to be. Let's see. Up at the front here, you see these pads? There's a pad there and there's a pad there. That's what's acting to give our barrel up pressure. So that works on some rifles. It's just a little bit harder to make it work. Lightweight forend with lots of reinforcements in it as well, and a channel for that big recoil lug right there. And as you can see, just a solid plastic bottom here for that blind magazine to sit in. Now looking at the action itself, we've got our spring and follower. That's for our blind magazine. Why don't we take this bolt out? Just going to push on this guy here. There goes the bolt. And you can see here that we've got a metal detachable box magazine that's just built into the bottom there. Looks like we've got a screw right about there that we can use to pull this guy out. Because this is a 223, we've got a block in there, so the action isn't actually shorter. It just uses a. Looks like the magazine is the action shorter. Hard to tell. Let's find out. I'm trying to see if this is an action that's been shortened for 223 or if it's. Come on, get in there. No, you know what? This action would handle 30-06 and 270 and your longer actions as well as the short actions. So what they've done is they've made one action length and then just put a block in there for shorter stuff. This is very common in some other rifles as well. I'm just kind of curious seeing it used here. And then you can see that that really fantastic trigger that Remington has here. I'm a real big fan of this one. It's just an excellent trigger that comes with this thing. Now in terms of usability, there's a couple of things that I like about the Remington 700s and a couple of, well, one thing that I dislike about the 700 ADL, which is the cheapest one again. Now with the other versions, sometimes they'll come with a hinged floor plate, some of them come with a magazine. Again, I don't know if you guys follow me much, but I much prefer a magazine. You know, especially the kind of hunting I do. I go out hunting in the morning for a few hours, I go hunting at night for a few hours, I pull my magazines out and I make sure that my gun's empty in between, and that's a pain in the butt to do with a blind mag, so boy, a detachable one would be nice. You know, feeding rounds through the top when you have a scope on here, which I did before and I've just got off now, is kind of a pain in the butt. The floor plate down here does tilt quite a bit. So it's not the floor plate, the follower tilts quite a bit. So it's kind of a pain in the butt from that end. It does fire, like the actual like running the bolt is excellent. The Remington 700 has been around for decades now, and that part's good. The trigger on it, fantastic. Let me just make sure that I'm empty here. I am empty. My safety is off, and the trigger is just fantastic. Very short, nice and light, and just a great trigger on this Remington 700. The safety is fine. It's right underneath your right finger there, so up on your shoulder. You still have to break your grip a little bit to activate it, but it's fine. Taking the bolt out of this thing, excellent. It's got a little gas pedal here just underneath the trigger, so open up the bolt, press the gas pedal, and out she comes, and there's your solid bolt. So very easy to, and you don't have to do anything on the way in. You can just like push it right in there and off you go. So very easy from that perspective. Now, a couple of features on this rifle that I kind of dislike, and maybe I'm going to rustle some people here, but it's not a free float barrel. And there's some very accurate rifles out there that aren't free float barrels, but generally to get the best accuracy out of a rifle, you either free float it and you bed just the receiver here, or you have to kind of muck around with tuning it to how much pressure is applied at what points in the barrel. If a lot of the other rifle manufacturers have opted to go for a free float because it's cheap. It's a cheaper and easier way to get good accuracy out of a rifle without needing the accuracy of this bedding point pressure on here. This barrel is not free floated, and I don't really like it. I don't really like the idea of that. If you're on the sandbags, or if you're applying pressure to it, you are now applying pressure to the barrel. So if you push down a little bit more on the rifle, or you don't push down as much, you are changing the amount of pressure that you're putting on the barrel. That's the part I don't really like. And because this synthetic stock is a little bit torquey, I guess, on the end here, you can move it. It is possible to impart some different pressure on the barrel. So I don't really like that part. It's got a solid bolt. A lot of the other rifle manufacturers are going to a floating bolt head design. Again, as a cost to accuracy compromise that they're okay with. With these Remington 700s, if you want like primo accuracy out of them, you do have to, if you're gonna go real crazy, you blueprint them. If you're gonna stay a little bit lighter, you can do a couple of light gunsmithing things to them. Now, despite these reasons, there's still a couple of really good reasons why you'd want to get one of these 700 ADLs. And I think the biggest one is that it gets you into the Remington 700 platform. The platform itself has a ton out there in terms of aftermarket accessories, in terms of stocks, in terms of triggers, in terms of absolutely everything on this rifle can be replaced or upgraded or changed. So it's actually a very flexible rifle platform just because of all the stuff that's out there for it. It's also got the advantage of being one of the most worked on bolt action rifles for accuracy. So if you want to get a gunsmith to work on your Remington 700, there's a ton of them out there that can do that work. It's not like some of the other rifle platforms out there where they might not have all these little nifty tips and tricks, whereas gunsmiths have been working on these things for decades trying to eke out the most accuracy out of them possible. So again, if you're looking at getting into the platform, buying this thing just to get into the Remington 700 platform is very interesting. So again, those are my thoughts on the Remington 700 ADL. In terms of a budget bolt action rifle, I think there are better rifles out there for the price. The competition from Remington's own 783 is one of them. The Savage Axis, the Ruger American, there's lots of competition in that area, and I just don't feel that this thing's got the features that some of the other modern again, budget bolt action rifles are bringing. Now, to get into the platform, this is a very inexpensive way to get into the Remington 700 platform. So if you're looking at upgrading and adding on and tuning and that kind of thing, this is got more promise than some of those other rifles do. So again, that was just a real quick one on the Remington 700 ADL. Thanks for watching.